dim light of the winter sun filtered through the thick frost, casting an eerie and cold glow over the Aurora Research Facility. Situated on a remote island in the Arctic, Aurora represents the world's hope in combating climate change while simultaneously being the focal point of intense political and economic disputes. The Aurora Project was established to develop cutting-edge renewable energy technology, harnessing the power of wind and solar energy in the polar region to provide clean energy and reduce reliance on fossil fuels. Its success has the potential to revolutionize the global energy industry. However, this immense potential has drawn the attention of major powers such as the US, Russia, China, and the European Union, all vying to control the project's technology to expand their economic and political influence. It's not just nations. Massive oil and gas corporations also see Aurora as a direct threat to their profits. They have sought to obstruct the project through various means, from political pressure to covert sabotage. Sterling Innovations, the primary sponsor of the project led by Ryan Sterling, faces internal pressure as well. His father, Harold Sterling, wants to transfer the technology to oil corporations for profit, while Ryan fights to preserve the project's original vision. Outside, the massive wind turbines spin sluggishly against the biting wind, but inside, a silent battle for power and interest threatens Aurora's future and the hope for a sustainable world. Emma Carter, a wind energy technology specialist, arrived at Aurora just yesterday. She endured a tough selection process to join the project, bringing with her a burning passion and determination to protect her research from the greedy eyes of major corporations. Coming from a humble background, Emma understands she cannot afford to back down. Meanwhile, Ryan Sterling, the CEO of Sterling Innovations, landed at the facility this morning in his private helicopter. A powerful man with a cold demeanor, Ryan is not only dealing with the pressures of his work but also from his father, who as chairman of the board constantly seeks to control his every decision. Inside the research facility, Emma entered a small room she assumed to be a storage area. She shrugged off her heavy coat, feeling the biting cold creep onto her skin. Her breath turned into thin clouds in the frigid air. Her wet sweater clung tightly to her skin, making her shiver as she pulled it over her head, exposing her slender shoulders, flushed red from the cold. As she fumbled for a clean, protective suit hanging on the wall, the door suddenly swung open. Emma spun around, her heartbeat racing as her eyes met the surprised gray ones of the man standing in the doorway. Ryan Sterling, the powerful CEO, stood frozen, his gaze flickering from her exposed skin to her face, which had shifted from surprise to anger. She quickly pulled the coat up to cover herself, her eyes sharp and defensive. Ryan stood there tall and imposing in his thick black coat, his steady breath visible in the cold air. His sharp features and neatly trimmed dark brown hair remained composed, but his eyes betrayed a mix of curiosity and awkwardness. He hadn't expected to encounter anyone here, let alone a woman with such a fierce, defiant gaze. "What are you doing here?" Emma snapped, her voice laced with both embarrassment and irritation. Ryan hesitated for a moment before regaining his usual composed demeanor, a faint, unreadable smile tugging at his lips. "I should be asking you that. This is a storage room, right?" Emma frowned, trying to regain her composure as she pulled her coat back over her shoulders. "No," Ryan replied, stepping inside with an infuriatingly calm posture. "This is a security zone." Emma's breath caught, a chill running down her spine. She glanced around and noticed the large metal cabinets filled with classified documents and high-tech equipment, nothing like an ordinary storage room. "Then I must have made a mistake," she said, her voice steady but her mind racing. How could she have made such a foolish error on her very first day? Ryan studied her intently, as if analyzing every slight movement. "It seems so, but I'm curious. Who are you?" Emma took a deep breath, reminding herself that she had no reason to feel intimidated. "Emma Carter. I'm part of the wind energy research team." A flicker of recognition passed through Ryan's eyes. "Ah, the wind energy prodigy everyone's been talking about." Emma pursed her lips, annoyed by his slightly mocking tone. "And you are?" Ryan crossed his arms, his gaze never leaving hers. "Ryan Sterling, the one running this project." Emma blinked, the CEO of Sterling Innovations, the man with absolute authority over Aurora. I didn't expect a CEO to have enough free time to inspect research rooms, she quipped, her blue eyes gleaming with challenge. Ryan smirked, taking a deliberate step closer. Just like I didn't expect a talented researcher to overlook the facility's layout. Emma bit her lip, more frustrated with herself than with him. I guess I made a mistake, she said, slipping past him to exit the room. But as she reached the door, Ryan's voice stopped her. We'll be seeing each other again, Emma. She turned to meet his sharp gaze. I doubt that, Mr. Sterling. I'm here to work, not socialize. Ryan didn't respond, only offering a mysterious smile as the door closed behind her. Standing outside, Emma's heart was still beating faster than usual. She wasn't sure why she felt so uneasy. Was it because of Ryan Sterling, or because his presence in the project posed a greater threat than she had anticipated? One thing was certain, he wasn't someone easy to deal with, and if she wanted to protect her project, she needed to be more careful than ever. Welcome to today's story. Let us know which city you're listening from. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you won't miss our meaningful daily stories. Chapter 1. The First Secret, a Hidden Conflict. From the moment Emma Carter set foot in the Aurora Research Facility, she sensed that something was amiss. On the surface, it was a grand scientific endeavor, a place where the brightest minds in the world gathered to develop sustainable energy solutions for the future. Yet beneath this polished facade lay a complex web of hidden agendas, with watchful eyes tracking her every move, some filled with caution and others with suspicion. Aurora was not just an ordinary research facility. Nestled deep within the harsh Arctic, it was equipped with the most advanced security systems, surveillance cameras monitoring every corner, and security teams patrolling around the clock. Emma soon realized that she wasn't only working alongside scientists, but also covert government agents, corporate spies from traditional energy conglomerates looking for opportunities to sabotage, and even mysterious non-governmental organizations with a vested interest in the project. The constant feeling of being watched robbed her of sleep for many nights. Every time Emma walked down the long, icy corridors, she felt prying eyes and heard hushed whispers trailing behind her. But suspicion didn't just come from the shadows. It came from within her own research team. Dr. Victor Larson, one of the senior engineers on the project, was a seasoned professional known for his arrogance and extreme skepticism. At first, he observed Emma from a distance, assessing her sudden arrival with thinly veiled disapproval. But as the project progressed, Larson began spreading rumors. Emma Carter wasn't chosen for her talent. Maybe she has a special connection with Ryan Sterling. The rumors spread like wildfire through Aurora's icy corridors. Emma soon noticed the wary glances whenever she entered the lab, the condescending smirks whenever she presented her ideas. Her colleagues began to distance themselves, subtly treating her as an outsider who had gained a position not through merit, but through Sterling Innovations' influence. She felt the weight of pressure bearing down on her. Meetings turned into silent battlegrounds, where her every question was met with skepticism or outright dismissal. What frustrated Emma the most was that Ryan did nothing to quell the rumors. He merely watched from a distance, neither defending her nor offering explanations. This led Emma to wonder, was Ryan truly supporting her, or was she just a pawn in a larger game? One evening, while reviewing data in the lab, Dr. Larson approached her, his face lined with a smug expression. "Are you sure you understand what you're doing, Carter?" he asked, his tone laced with mockery. "Or are you just following orders from someone else?" Emma clenched her fists, her eyes flashing with defiance. "I don't need to prove anything to you, Doctor. Larson, my results will speak for themselves." Larson shrugged. "I hope so, young lady." While Emma struggled with the rumors and distrust within the research team, Ryan Sterling was caught in a battle of his own, a family conflict he could no longer evade. His father, Harold Sterling, was a ruthless businessman, a titan in the traditional energy sector who saw Aurora not as a scientific breakthrough, but as a financial asset. He had never believed that renewable energy could fully replace fossil fuels. However, with Aurora's advancements, the threat to Sterling Innovations' traditional operations was becoming more evident than ever. In a tense video call from the corporate headquarters in New York, Harold's piercing gaze bore into his son. "Ryan, we need to talk." Ryan crossed his arms, trying to remain composed. "I know what you're going to say, but I won't do it." Harold's voice was low but carried an unmistakable threat. "How long do you think you can keep up this idealistic charade? The oil giants are willing to pay billions for the technology you're developing at Aurora. We can't hold on to it forever." Ryan shook his head, his tone firm. "I won't sell out humanity's future for profit. Aurora can change the world." Harold smirked. "The world doesn't care about change, son. It cares about power and money." Ryan clenched his fists. "I won't do it." Harold leaned forward, his eyes cold. "If you refuse to cooperate, I will pull Sterling Innovations funding from the project. And trust me, those vultures circling Aurora will tear it apart the moment you stumble." Ryan froze. He knew his father wasn't bluffing. Aurora relied heavily on Sterling Innovations' vast financial backing. Without it, the project would be shut down in an instant. "You have until tonight to decide," Harold said before the screen went dark. Ryan sat in silence, staring at the reports in front of him. He felt like a pawn in his father's game. Worse, Emma could be dragged into this tangled web of manipulation if he couldn't find a way to protect her from the dark forces closing in. The Arctic winds howled outside the thick glass windows, bringing with them a bone-chilling cold. Inside Aurora, both Emma and Ryan were facing difficult choices. On one side was their belief in the future, and on the other, forces that sought to manipulate and destroy their vision. Emma had no idea that Ryan's silence wasn't due to indifference, but because he was fighting to keep her safe in a battle where even he wasn't sure he could emerge victorious. Chapter 2. Technical Malfunction and Unveiled Secrets. The Aurora Research Facility, with its towering wind turbines standing tall against the vast white landscape, was entering its most crucial testing phase. The renewable energy system that Emma and her team had spent years developing was finally at the stage where it had to prove its efficiency. That morning, the snowfall was heavier than usual, reducing visibility across the island. Yet inside the control center, Emma remained intensely focused, her eyes fixed on the fluctuating data on the monitors with unwavering determination. A sudden blare of alarms jolted Emma from her concentration. The graphs on the main screen fluctuated wildly before the entire system lost connection. The lights in the control center flickered ominously before plunging the entire room into darkness. A loud explosion erupted from the primary turbine site, shaking the entire facility. "What's happening?" Emma shouted, rushing to the backup control panel. Engineers scrambled around her, frantically trying to restart the system, but their efforts were futile. A distressed voice crackled through the radio. "Turbine number 3 is heavily damaged. We need to evacuate the area immediately." Emma's heart pounded as she analyzed the system diagram. She quickly realized that the malfunction wasn't accidental. Someone had deliberately tampered with the control software. If the issue wasn't resolved swiftly, it could result in catastrophic damage, potentially derailing the entire project. She rushed to report her findings to the engineering team, but instead of support, she was met with accusatory stares. Dr. Victor Larson stepped forward, his voice cold and cutting. "Miss Carter, are you aware of the consequences of such negligence? A project of this magnitude, and you allow such a fundamental error?" Emma clenched her fists. "I don't believe this is a simple mistake. The system was tampered with. I need access to the data." Quote. Larson interrupted with a smirk. "Or perhaps you're just blaming someone else to cover your own incompetence. Look around. An entire facility blacked out because of a small oversight on your part." Whispers spread through the room, and Emma could feel the weight of suspicion growing heavier with each passing second. Fury burned within her, but she knew arguing would get her nowhere. Deep down, she realized she had to prove herself, not only to clear her name, but to expose the saboteur lurking within Aurora. That night, after everyone had left the lab, Emma stayed behind, combing through the system logs, searching for any traces of unauthorized access. Unbeknownst to her, Ryan Sterling had been silently observing from afar. "Emma!" His deep voice broke the silence, pulling her from her thoughts. He stood at the doorway, his sharp gaze revealing that he knew more than he was letting on. Emma sighed, not looking away from her screen. Are you here to criticize me like everyone else? Ryan stepped inside, closing the door behind him. Not exactly. I want to know what's really going on. Emma paused for a moment, then spoke in a low voice. The system didn't fail due to an operational error. Someone deliberately tampered with the control software. I believe there's an internal sabotage at play. Ryan nodded slowly, his expression darkening. I thought so too. Emma's eyes widened as she turned to face him. You knew something, didn't you? Ryan stepped closer, his gaze scanning the data on her screen. I suspected that someone within the facility was leaking information to rival corporations. My father, he wants to use Aurora to benefit Sterling Innovations, but I refuse to let that happen. Emma studied him carefully, her suspicion beginning to wane. For the first time, she saw Ryan not as a cold, calculating CEO, but as a man caught between the crushing weight of his family's expectations and his own desire to do the right thing. We need to act fast, Emma said, her voice filled with determination. If we don't, the project will fall into the wrong hands and become just another profit-driven venture rather than a solution for the future. Ryan nodded. I'll help you, but we need to be careful. If my father finds out that I'm investigating this, he won't hesitate to remove me from the equation. Together, they decided to review the security system, searching for any signs of unusual activity. They pored over hours of surveillance footage, maintenance logs, and access records, until finally a clue emerged. There's a suspicious log from turbine number 3, Emma pointed at the screen. Someone entered the restricted zone early yesterday morning, but the security data has been altered. Ryan leaned in, his brows furrowing. Who has access to that area? Emma exhaled deeply. Doctor, Larson, and a handful of senior engineers. They exchanged knowing glances. If Larson was indeed behind the sabotage, it meant he was either being paid off by outside interests, or worse, working directly with Ryan's father. As they continued their investigation, Emma found herself seeing Ryan in a new light. He was not just a distant executive concerned with profits. He was a man under immense pressure, fighting against both corporate greed and his own family's ambition to protect what he believed in. Ryan, in turn, was drawn to Emma's resilience. She wasn't just brilliant, she was courageous, standing up against forces far greater than herself to defend her vision. Late nights spent working together gradually turned into quiet moments where they shared more than just work, dreams, fears, and their unwavering belief in the future they were fighting for. But both of them knew one thing. The closer they got to the truth, the greater the danger became. And Emma had a gut feeling that this was just the beginning of the real troubles that lay ahead. Chapter 3. Personal Conflicts and Emerging Emotions. Today, Emma froze in shock when she accidentally stumbled upon a contract displayed on the computer screen. Sterling Innovations had signed a secret agreement with Petroglobe, one of the largest oil conglomerates in the world, notorious for obstructing efforts to transition to renewable energy. According to the contract, Petroglobe would inject massive capital into Project Aurora, but in return, they would have exclusive rights to its advanced wind technology for the next 10 years. Emma felt a sharp sting of betrayal. Clutching the contract tightly, she marched straight to Ryan's office. Can you explain this to me? Her voice trembled, yet her gaze remained steely. Why did you sell out the project to Petroglobe? You're no different from your father. Ryan sat tensely in his chair, rising slowly and shutting the door to avoid curious eyes in the hallway. Emma, please let me explain before you jump to conclusions, he said, his voice calm yet urgent. Explain, Emma scoffed, tossing the contract onto his desk. They have a history of sabotaging clean energy initiatives, and you signed a deal with them? Ryan sighed heavily, knowing how hard this truth was for her to accept. Emma, I had no choice. Project Aurora was on the verge of losing all funding. My father wanted to sell our technology to competing oil giants at a higher price, and if I hadn't agreed to Petroglobe's offer, they would have pulled every dollar from this project. Emma shook her head, disappointment written all over her face. So you compromised? You let this technology fall into the hands of those who will suffocate it? Ryan stepped closer, his gaze sharp yet sincere. I didn't compromise, Emma. The contract includes provisions that allow us to oversee its implementation. It's the only way to keep Aurora running without falling under complete control. I'm fighting in my own way." But Emma didn't want to hear it. Her heart clenched in frustration. She turned and left, leaving Ryan standing alone in his office, his face heavy with regret. Determined not to let the project fall into the wrong hands, Emma spent sleepless nights analyzing the contract, searching for loopholes Ryan could exploit to prevent Petroglobe from taking full control. She also reached out to a few trusted colleagues to gather more information. Through meticulous examination of electronic logs, Emma uncovered a shocking truth. Petroglobe's true intention wasn't just to utilize the technology, but to deliberately slow its large-scale deployment in order to protect their traditional oil market. The revelation reignited her fury. She decided to confront Ryan again, this time not just with anger, but with a clear plan. "You said Petroglobe can't control the entire project." Emma confronted him the next day, her voice steadier. "But they are doing everything to delay progress and render our innovations ineffective." Ryan looked at her, a mixture of pain and admiration in his eyes. "I know, and that's why I need you here. We need time to find a way out of this mess." Emma paused, realizing that instead of fighting him, they needed a smarter approach. In the days that followed, the tension between Emma and Ryan seeped into every corner of the facility. Every chance encounter in the cold, sterile hallways carried an unspoken weight between them. Emma tried to maintain her distance, but despite her doubts about Ryan, she couldn't deny the growing attraction she felt towards his resilience and unwavering dedication. One evening, during a sudden power outage at the facility, Emma and Ryan found themselves trapped together in the central control room. The dim glow of a flashlight illuminated his face, highlighting the strong yet tired features. "I'm sorry," Ryan said unexpectedly, his voice soft in the darkness. "I never wanted to disappoint you, but I'm walking a fine line between family obligations and my own dreams." Emma turned away, her voice quieter, but still tinged with skepticism. "And what exactly is your dream, Ryan? Just another CEO trying to keep his family's legacy alive, or someone who truly wants to make a difference?" Ryan remained silent for a long moment before finally speaking. "My dream is a world where our technology isn't controlled by greed, where you can realize your full potential without being bound by external forces." She looked at him, and in that moment Emma realized that perhaps Ryan wasn't the betrayer she had thought. She saw the inner struggle within him and, in a way, understood the burden he carried. Though the doubts lingered, Emma decided to give Ryan a chance to prove himself. She proposed working together to amend certain clauses in the contract, using a legal loophole that might limit Petroglobe's influence. Ryan smiled faintly. "Thank you, Emma. I know you didn't have to do this." "Don't thank me yet," she said, her eyes gleaming with determination. "We'll only work together if you promise to do things right from now on." Ryan nodded, a rare warmth filling his chest. For the first time in months, he felt like he wasn't fighting this battle alone. Though trust had not yet been fully restored, Emma and Ryan began working side by side to protect the project from corporate manipulation. They faced mounting challenges, not just from Petroglobe, but also from within Sterling Innovations itself. Would Emma ever fully trust Ryan? And would Ryan find the courage to break free from his family's shadow and stand up for what he truly believed in? Chapter 4. A Dangerous Conspiracy. Emma hurried down the long, freezing corridors of the Aurora Research Facility, clutching the latest system audit report she had just retrieved from the surveillance room. The numbers didn't match. The wind turbine performance metrics had dropped significantly without any clear explanation. She knew something was terribly wrong. For weeks, Dr. Victor Larson, one of Aurora's senior engineers, had openly questioned Emma's abilities, constantly scrutinizing her credentials and motives. But as time passed, she began to suspect that his hostility was more than just personal rivalry. Every recent technical failure seemed to have some connection to Larson and his team. That evening, while reviewing system data, Emma stumbled upon a hidden, encrypted file. Hours of painstaking decryption finally revealed shocking evidence. Larson was secretly working for a rival oil conglomerate, deliberately sabotaging the Aurora project. He had orchestrated the recent power failure to discredit the initiative, aiming to prove to the world that renewable energy was unreliable. "No, this can't be," Emma whispered, her heart pounding. If this information got out, Aurora would collapse, and years of hard work would be wasted. Without wasting another second, she shut down the computer, grabbed the external drive containing the evidence, and rushed toward Ryan's office. But before she could reach him, a firm hand seized her arm from behind. "Going somewhere in a hurry, Miss Carter?" Larson's voice was as cold as the Arctic wind outside. Before Emma could react, he forced her into a dark corridor and injected a sedative into her arm. Her vision blurred and the world around her faded into darkness. When Emma regained consciousness, she found herself locked inside an abandoned lab on the outskirts of the research facility. The room was dimly lit and freezing, the cold seeping into her bones. The door was locked from the outside and panic began to creep into her mind. Outside, she could hear Larson speaking into a radio. "She found the evidence, but don't worry, she won't get the chance to expose anything." His voice dripped with satisfaction. Emma knew she couldn't stay idle. She scanned the room, searching for an escape route. Amidst the old rusted equipment, her eyes landed on a ventilation duct just large enough for her to crawl through, if she could loosen the screws. With trembling hands numbed by the cold, Emma began unscrewing the bolts one by one. She had to escape and warn Ryan before it was too late. "Are you still following the story? Feel free to share your thoughts about it. I'd love to hear what you think." Back at the main facility, Ryan was growing increasingly anxious. Emma had been missing for hours, and she wasn't someone who would disappear without a word. A deep sense of dread settled in his chest, amplified by the worsening blizzard outside. "When was the last time anyone saw Emma?" he asked the gathered technicians. No one had an answer. Instinct told him something was seriously wrong. Without hesitation, Ryan donned a heavy protective suit, grabbed a snowmobile, and ventured into the storm. He knew of an old, unused testing site. If someone wanted to keep Emma hidden, that would be the perfect place. The wind howled fiercely, tearing at his gear as he navigated through the blinding snow. Every second counted, and Ryan pressed forward, ignoring the biting cold and exhaustion. Meanwhile, Emma was making her way through the ventilation system, heart pounding with every cautious movement. Below, she could hear Larson's heavy footsteps echoing as he searched for her. She held her breath, praying that he wouldn't notice the open vent. After what felt like an eternity, she finally reached the outside. The icy wind hit her face like 1,000 needles, but she didn't care. She stumbled into the storm, disoriented and freezing, desperately searching for a way back to safety. Then through the blinding snow, she spotted a distant beam of light. Ryan. "Ryan!" she screamed, forcing her frozen legs to move toward him. The icy wind cut through her thin layers, but she pushed forward. When he saw her, relief flooded his face. "God, Emma, are you okay?" Ryan pulled her into his arms, his warmth the only thing keeping her from collapsing. "We have to go, now!" she gasped, clutching his hand. "Larson! He's trying to destroy everything." Before they could move, a sharp cracking sound echoed through the air. A massive fissure began to spread across the ice beneath them. "Run!" Ryan shouted, dragging Emma toward the snowmobile. The ice shattered just as they leaped onto the vehicle, speeding away through the storm. Emma's heart raced, adrenaline pumping as she held on to Ryan, feeling the life-threatening danger lurking behind them. Back at the facility, Emma collapsed into Ryan's arms, shivering uncontrollably. She looked up into his eyes, and for the first time, she saw something she had doubted for so long: genuine concern and unwavering support. "Ryan, I doubted you," she whispered, tears forming in her eyes. "But you came for me despite everything." He held her hands tightly. "I never wanted to betray you, Emma. All I ever wanted was to protect what we're building here." Emma nodded, the walls she had built around her heart slowly crumbling. "I believe you." Ryan leaned in, and this time Emma didn't pull away. Their lips met in a kiss warmer than anything the Arctic could ever offer, a moment of solace in the middle of chaos. As dawn broke over the icy horizon, they both knew that running was no longer an option. They had to face Larson and the forces behind him head on. Emma met Ryan's gaze, determination shining in her eyes. "We have to expose everything." Ryan smiled, a newfound sense of hope settling in his chest. "We will, together." Outside, the storm raged on, but within them, A stronger force had taken root: trust, resilience, and the unyielding desire to fight for the future they believed in. The Arctic sun cast a faint glow through the dense clouds as Emma stepped into the main conference room of the Aurora Research Facility. Inside, Ryan was already waiting, his expression serious but his gaze unwavering. Spread across the table were all the pieces of evidence against Dr. Victor Larson: encrypted files, internal emails, and testimonies from bribed staff members. Emma took a deep breath, feeling the tension in the air. They had worked tirelessly to gather this evidence, and now it was time to bring everything to light. "What's your plan?" she asked, eyes fixed on the files before them. Ryan stood, his face resolute. "We're going to present all of this to the board and the investors. Larson hasn't just been spying for the oil corporations. He's actively sabotaging Aurora to benefit those who oppose clean energy." Emma nodded, determination swelling in her chest. But she knew there was still a greater challenge ahead, facing Harold Sterling, Ryan's father, the man who had been pulling the strings from behind the scenes. As the meeting commenced, all eyes were on Larson, who struggled to maintain his composure. But as the evidence was laid out, documents, emails, and security footage, there was no denying the truth. The room fell into an uneasy silence before Larson finally admitted defeat. "Yes, I did it," Larson said, his voice trembling. "But I did it to protect the company's interests. Aurora would fail if we weren't realistic." Harold Sterling, the chairman of Sterling Innovations and Ryan's father, stood abruptly. His sharp gaze swept across the room before settling on Larson. "You didn't protect anything, Larson. You betrayed the trust of everyone who has poured their lives into this project," he said coldly. "Protecting interests? You did the exact opposite." Larson was promptly taken into custody, and a wave of relief spread through the room. However, the tension remained palpable. As the board members filed out, Harold gestured for Ryan to stay. Alone in the now empty conference room, Harold approached his son, his expression a mix of power and disappointment. "Do you think you've done something great?" Harold's voice was laced with frustration. "You've rejected my deals, cost the company millions. You think getting rid of Larson solves everything?" Ryan clenched his fists, his gaze unwavering. "You were wrong to try and use Aurora for profit. This project is about the future, not your greed." Harold studied his son for a long moment before offering a bitter smile. "The future? Without my funding, your future wouldn't even exist." Ryan took a step forward, facing his father head-on. "If I have to choose between pleasing you and protecting Aurora, I choose Aurora. This company needs a new direction, and I will take it there, with or without you." A tense silence hung between them before Harold sighed, his eyes clouded with a mix of fatigue and disappointment. "You might have won this round, Ryan, but remember, this war isn't over." As Harold walked away, Ryan stood firm, knowing he had made the right decision, for Aurora, for Emma, and for the vision of a better world. Weeks later, as the final turbines were installed and Aurora entered its operational phase, the research facility no longer carried the weight of tension and suspicion. Instead, it became a beacon of innovation and hope. The massive wind turbines spun gracefully against the Arctic sky, generating clean and sustainable energy. International media hailed Aurora as a monumental step forward in the fight against climate change, and the research team was celebrated for their relentless dedication. Ryan knew that the time had come for something even more important: asking Emma to marry him. Under the soft Arctic sunset, he invited Emma to the facility's observation deck, where they could gaze out over the vast frozen sea. Emma stood there, her blue eyes reflecting the gentle golden hues, her heart still racing from the recent events. Pulling a small box from his coat, Ryan's hands trembled slightly from the cold metal.
"Emma," he began, his voice deep and sincere, "I've learned that life isn't just about work and responsibility. Sometimes it's about share it all with, and for me, that person is you. Will you marry me?"
Emma stared at him, her eyes wide with surprise and overflowing with happiness. She couldn't believe that the man who once embodied cold, calculated logic was now standing before her, laying his heart bare. "Ryan," she whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Yes, I will. Ryan knelt, slipping the ring onto her finger, a small diamond encircled by gold, symbolizing endurance, just like their love. 6 months later, they were married on the very island where everything had begun. The ceremony was a vision of Arctic elegance. White ribbons fluttered in the crisp wind, and delicate snowflakes fell gently, creating a scene straight from a fairy tale. Emma walked down an aisle adorned with white petals, her wedding dress flowing gracefully with lace trimmings as soft as Arctic snow. As she approached Ryan, standing tall and proud, his eyes betrayed the depth of his love for her. "You are the light of my life," Ryan whispered as he took her hand. "From the moment I met you, I knew no one else could stand by my side like you do." Emma smiled radiantly, squeezing his hand. "And you are the wind that carries me beyond my dreams. Together we'll build something better." As the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Ryan leaned in, capturing Emma's lips in a tender kiss, surrounded by cheers and applause from their friends, family, and colleagues. After their wedding, Emma and Ryan didn't stop. They continued collaborating on renewable energy projects worldwide, using their experience at Aurora to advance clean technology even further. Ryan eventually left Sterling Innovations and, with Emma by his side, founded their own company focused on sustainable energy solutions. With his strategic vision and her brilliant expertise, they quickly became a formidable duo in the renewable energy industry. Through all the challenges they faced, they always remembered their time at Aurora, the place that not only sparked groundbreaking innovation, but also forged an unbreakable love. The story ends with Emma and Ryan standing atop the tallest wind turbine at Aurora, looking down at the Arctic landscape that was now thriving with clean energy. "We did it," Emma whispered, her eyes full of hope. Ryan held her hand tightly, a proud smile on his face. "And we're just getting started." Against the vast and serene backdrop, they promised to protect both the world and each other from whatever storms the future might bring. Emma and Ryan's story teaches us that trust and perseverance are the keys to overcoming any challenge. Pursuing one's passion requires not only intelligence, but also the courage to defend one's ideals. True love is built on mutual support and resilience in the face of adversity. Furthermore, innovation and technology can indeed create a sustainable future, but only when we prioritize the greater good over personal profit. Thank you for staying with us until the end. Let us know your thoughts on this story in the comments below. What type of stories would you like to hear next?